Growing up, I had basically no restrictions in terms of my internet access. This led me down some interesting internet paths, one of which was the Five Nights at Freddy's fandom. While I never played any of the games, I have way too much anxiety for that. I was super interested in the lore. I hopped into the fandom right after FNAF 2 came out. So the story, though less muddled, was still largely unknown. While the fandom was at its peak, I was watching SFM videos and jamming out to the Living Tombstone. I was in 5th grade around this time, so literally a child. One work from the fandom I was particularly fond of was Tony Crynight's series of FNAF animations. I would watch them religiously as they came out until I fell out of the fandom around the release of Sister Location. It's been a long while since I've watched any of it, so I thought it would be fun to go back and watch the series and share my thoughts as I went through it. Just so you know, my voice is very scratchy because I'm pretty sure I have laryngitis or sinus infection or something. But without further ado, let's get into it. Part 1. We start the series off with some dramatic romance music that I obviously will not be playing for copyright purposes. We see a fixed Mangle, or Funtime Foxy, reaching out to Foxy. He takes her hand and the two kiss. Chica watches this happen and is immediately upset since she has feelings for Foxy. Eyes go red as she's filled with anger and part 1 ends. This one was less than a minute long and just sets up the main ship, Foxy and Mangle. This was a huge ship in the fandom at the time, and the series made it even more popular. Definitely forgot about the love triangle part of it, which could be interesting. Part 2. We start part 2 with Chica holding a butcher knife. She's rubbing the blade as images of Funtime Foxy and Foxy together flash in her mind. Angry, she cuts a nearby poster of Funtime Foxy in half. More dramatic music plays as Chica's eyes go red. We see Funtime Foxy just wandering around, but Chica is following her. Chica raises her blade and strikes her to the ground. It's such a cool shot with the background turning red and Funtime Foxy and Chica becoming shadows as the violent act occurs. The music turns sad as Chica realizes what she's done. She drops the blade and covers her mouth in shock. She runs off, leaving the mangled body of Funtime Foxy, or Mangle now. Mangle sees the state of her body and cries. When Chica was mutilating Mangle, her eyes were red, but as soon as she finished, they turned back to their normal purple. I'm interested to see if this is going to be something more than just regular rage, or if something is corrupting the animatronics. Part 3. We skip to a few days after Mangle's attack. She's having flashbacks to not just the attack, but also Foxy's horrified reaction to her new form. Foxy approaches her and hugs her. Chica watches on from the sidelines, similar to episode 1, but instead of being enraged, she just feels remorse. She walks away, head held down. She finds an archive room with the original blueprints for Funtime Foxy. She's determined to fix Mangle. I'm a little concerned as to why nobody has, beat the shit out of Chica for what she did. I don't know. If I were Foxy and I knew this girl beat up my girlfriend, I'd be off the walls with rage. Part 4. We start the episode with a new face, Bonnie. He's helping Chica fix Mangle. Chica cries as she shows Bonnie the original Funtime Foxy blueprints. Bonnie holds her hand in reassurance, and whoa, what's that? Shipping material! That's right, folks. We've hopped off the Chica x Foxy train and now have Bonnie x Chica as a main ship. Chica hugs Bonnie, but then the two quickly pull apart, turning away from each other nervously. We cut from this super happy moment to Mangle having trauma flashbacks, which definitely caused some tonal whiplash. She looks in a mirror and is appalled at how she looks, but instead of continuing to be sad, she vows to take vengeance on Chica. Before I move on to the next part, I just want to talk about this Bonnie design. It's something special, but I absolutely love it. I think it's a specific color they chose for it. The muted colors just work really well. Also, the big buck tooth is super cute. Part 5. We start with Bonnie and Chica roaming the halls, but Mangle is stalking them. The duo hear a noise and look around. They don't see anybody, but Chica finds a cloak belonging to Mangle on the floor. She picks it up. While she's distracted, Mangle starts to strike. Bonnie sees Mangle at the last second and tries to warn Chica, but it's too late and Mangle pounces. Bonnie sprints over in this badass running cycle and smacks Mangle. He tries to show her the blueprints he and Chica were going to use to fix her, but she cuts it in half. She throws Bonnie against the wall before turning her attention back to Chica. She raises her hand for a final strike and then BAM! Episode ends. The action in this episode was insane. The initial part of Mangle attacking Chica was in silhouettes, which mirrored the initial scene of Chica attacking Mangle. Also, the animation is just breathtaking. Part 6. We cut right back to Mangle's final blow. As she strikes, her arm is caught by Foxy. Mangle tears up and lets Chica go. She looks around at the damage she's done and is filled with regret. She also notices the destroyed blueprints on the floor and realizes that she won't be able to be fixed. She runs off and we see her bow tie fall from the ceiling as a sorrowful Foxy watches on. From the shadows, we see a figure who watches the scene. He laughs behind his toothy grin before going back into the shadows. This episode marked a huge milestone in the series because it introduced sound effects and voice acting. Now, this episode does carry on the tradition of using music to explain the feelings of the characters, but we do hear distinct voices for them. They come in the form of grunts and gasps, but they're still recognizable voices nonetheless. There are also sound effects such as the sound of metal as Mangle moves her body or the sound of their eyelids blinking. I can't wait to get to the dialogue where the voices get to truly shine. Part 7. Foxy stands over Chica. He looks at her, rage in his eyes for what she did to Mangle. Chica is afraid of what he will do, but he just walks off. Bonnie reaches out to her and offers her a hand. Foxy has another moment with Mangle's bow tie before walking off. Chica puts a hand on his shoulder, showing him the blueprint book. She wants to fix Mangle, and Foxy's relieved to see that there's still hope. Chica and Foxy share a look that seems very romantic. Bonnie looks downtrodden by this, but then Chica snatches him. The three start to look for Mangle. We see Mangle sitting alone in a storage room. She hears a creak and looks around. In the shadows, we hear the same familiar laugh from the last episode. In the darkness, she sees bright yellow eyes and a toothy grin. A voice rings out, saying, "Hello, my dear." That's right, we have our first piece of spoken dialogue. This episode had me worried that we were going to have a love square with Chica, Mangle, Bonnie, and Foxy, but I think it established that although Chica and Foxy have chemistry, not gonna happen. Which is good since I've become a Chica x Bonnie stan for sure. Like that is my OTP right there. Part 8. We start the episode where the last one left off. Mangle asks the voice who he is. That's right, Mangle's got a voice now too. Haley Nelson does a solid job as her VA. The voice reveals himself to be a rabbit who's been living in solitary alone for years. He asks Mangle to stay with him since he hasn't been able to talk to people. He tells Mangle how awful it is to feel hated and avoided by others. Mangle relates to him, feeling hated for her looks. She asks the voice who he is, and he reveals himself as Springtrap. Mangle reveals that she's heard of him and his negative reputation. He tells Mangle how awful it was that she almost destroyed Bonnie and Chica and how Foxy must hate her. As he speaks, there's this quick shot of a bug crawling out of his head and down his back, and it's such a cool detail showing how rotted he is. Mangle feels like she's ruined everything and can't go back. Springtrap tells her that he wants her to stay with him. He gives her a proposition, or a literal proposal, since he asks her to marry him. Whoa, my dude, y'all just met. At least take her out to dinner first. The episode cuts off before Mangle can answer, but there is a quick flash of Golden Freddy on the screen before the credits roll. Speaking of credits, I gotta give credit to Jonathan Jones, who not only did the voice of Springtrap, but also served as the voice director and sound designer. He's done a solid job with the new sound effects as well as the backing tracks. He also rocks as Springtrap. Speaking of Springtrap, I feel like I should clarify that the series takes place in its own continuity, hence why Mangle and Springtrap are even in the same building. Part 9. Mangle says no to Springtrap's proposal since her heart belongs to Foxy. Springtrap tells her that there's nobody out there for her now. She has to choose between him or nothing. She picks nothing. What a girl boss. Springtrap reveals that he knew Mangle would say no. He reaches into his bloodied body, which is just as gross of a sound as you would expect, and pulls out a remote. The remote is able to reset an animatronic, with each animatronic having their own. The one he's in possession of belongs to Foxy. If Mangle refuses his proposal, then he will erase Foxy and all of his memories. Mangle pleads with Springtrap, giving in to his offer. Springtrap slips the ring onto Mangle as she looks on in horror. Her sobs rack out as the episode ends. I love how just downright manipulative Springtrap is in the series. Like, he cuts right to the chase and is such a good villain. He's an actual threat. The ring he gave Mangle is giving me some weird vibes, like it has this glowing pink jewel on it that's either supposed to match her color scheme or it's going to be something more, but I guess we'll just have to see. Part 10. We cut back to Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy who are all looking for Mangle. I don't know what it is, but Foxy looks really good here. Maybe it's the body language they use for him, but it really works. Also, the pants are a cool touch. Anyways, Bonnie points out scratch marks on the wall. They come to an impasse, the midpoint between the west and east wing, with claw marks on both sides. Chica asks what they're supposed to do now. Foxy says that they need to split up. Dude has a New Yorker accent, and honestly, it works. Normally, Foxy just gets a stereotypical pirate voice, but the New York accent works for this edgy bad boy heartthrob version of him. So he and Chica will go right, while Bonnie goes left. Bonnie awkwardly starts to object. Chica says that Bonnie is right and that they need a plan rather than just aimlessly wandering. Chica and Foxy bicker while Bonnie tries to interject, saying that they should get some help. Chica and Foxy ignore him while they fight, with Chica eventually bringing up the point Bonnie made. He tells them to follow him since he knows exactly who will help them. We cut to Freddy, who's sitting in an office alone. He counts down from 3, and the door opens with Chica, Foxy, and Bonnie standing in the doorway. He reaches 1. He tells them that he knew they would show up, and then the episode ends. This episode really shows off just how impactful the dialogue is. While we had an idea of the characters' personalities, they're really able to shine now. The prime example for me is the scene with Chica and Foxy arguing while Bonnie tries to interject with ideas. It shows off Chica and Foxy's strong personalities as well as Bonnie's meekness. 11. Freddy asks what the problem is. Chica tells him that Mangle is missing. Foxy tells Freddy about Mangle's attack. Freddy's cocky, asking what he's supposed to do about it. Chica wants him to use his access to the security cameras to find Mangle. He refuses. Bonnie, however, is able to convince him otherwise, saying they won't bother him anymore if he helps them. Freddy also states that he pays the bills, which is really interesting and brings up a lot of weird in-universe questions, but I'll get more into that in the next part. 12. Bug that was previously in Freddy's office goes to Springtrap to inform him that the others are on their way. He tells Mangle about the location's history as Fredbear's family diner. He and Fredbear ran the company, not as William Afton and Henry Emily. No, literally Fredbear and Springtrap ran the company. At least until Freddy arrived with his new ideas, which Fredbear disagreed with. He tried to destroy Freddy, but Freddy stopped him and ended up crushing Fredbear. Springtrap was banished from the pizzeria, but he managed to be hidden in the warehouse connected to it. He's been waiting ever since to set things right. His way. He's repaired Fredbear. But before we delve into that, I have my questions on how this universe works. Flashback scene at Fredbear's, we see multiple children. They have no animalistic features, so I'm going to guess that they're human. If the children are human, then how did the animatronics come to be? And where are the adult humans? Also, Springtrap is covered in blood and guts, so where does that come from? Though it's not entirely relevant to the story, some answers would be very nice to have. Part 13. Anyways, back to Fredbear. Springtrap needs one more part to fully repair him. He needs a chip for his personality, which was put inside of Mangle for some reason. Now has a way to wake up Fredbear's dominant personality, but in doing so, it will shut Mangle down. Mangle reflects on how she used to have everything she wished for. Her body, her friends, and Foxy. She hopes for their forgiveness as well as forgives Springtrap. This triggers a flashback where a human girl forgives Springtrap for something. We don't know what that is, but hopefully it's significant to the story since Springtrap gets angry at the reminder and activates Fredbear. Part 14. We go back to Foxy, Freddy, Chica, and Bonnie tracking down Mangle. They make it to the warehouse, the only place in the pizzeria without cameras. Springtrap reveals himself. Freddy recognizes him but is shocked since Springtrap was supposed to be gone. He starts going on a lecture about how times have changed, but Foxy interrupts him, asking Springtrap where Mangle is. He reveals Mangle's destroyed and deactivated form. Fredbear steps out of the shadows, and Freddy looks absolutely horrified as his rival utters, "It's me." What a great use of the iconic line. Shout out to Laughin' Hyena for such a great delivery. I mean, what a character entrance. Part 15. Fredbear attacks the animatronics and it looks amazing. The animation is smooth and fluid and the shading is amazing. Most say that the style is just a little off, but that doesn't take away from how good the scene looks. It's not a huge difference, but there's been some alterations which I can only presume were made to make animating the scene easier. Seeing as it's all done by Tony Crynight himself, it's absolutely incredible. He went above and beyond with the animation. While Fredbear and Freddy duke it out, Springtrap goes to Foxy and reveals what happened to Mangle. He tells her that Mangle's consciousness is still in Fredbear, but hidden away. He says he did her a favor, that now Mangle doesn't have to live looking like a monster anymore. Foxy, filled with rage, drives his hook through Springtrap's body. Fredbear is distracted by the loss of his friend, which Freddy takes the opportunity to attack him. Before he can make the finishing blow, however, Foxy stops him. He tells Freddy about how Mangle could still be inside of Fredbear. Springtrap, somehow still alive despite having his stomach ripped open, takes out the reset button for Foxy and presses it, wiping his memory. The others look on in horror as Foxy collapses to the ground. Part 16. Freddy tries to wake up Foxy. He begs Springtrap to tell him what happened, but Springtrap dies, saying that he finally got his revenge. He was made a monster by Freddy and he will die a monster because of him. That's when Fredbear tries to strike. Freddy tries to reach Mangle within Fredbear. He shows her Foxy and asks if that's what she wants. She's able to fight the Fredbear personality and return her consciousness to her body. Fredbear deactivates. Chica apologizes to Mangle. Bonnie asks what happened to Foxy, and Mangle reveals that Foxy was reset. Bonnie promises to fix him, but then his eyes open. Part 17. Bonnie is able to fix Mangle, and she returns to the gang who's trying to help the reset Foxy. We have a time jump where Freddy asks Bonnie how things are. Bonnie says they're improving. Freddy mentions that it's good that people are starting to like Foxy again after his change. Chico admits that she'll never forgive herself for what happened. Bonnie tries to reassure her that he's still looking for a way to fix Foxy. Mangle talks to Foxy, telling him that even if he doesn't have his memories, he will always be the Fox she fell in love with. He grabs a hold of her hand and the credits roll. But that's not the actual ending, because in the compilation movie, there's a new ending added. After the credits, we see a still alive Springtrap having a tea party with the deactivated Fredbear. So the dude is still out there, but he seems happy with his husband's corpse. Final thoughts. Overall, I think this series is very well done visually. However, I think the story was flimsy. Definitely came across as being made up as it went along, which it probably was after the success of the original shorts. I think the characters and story needed more elaboration. We barely get any of Bonnie and Chico once Fredbear is introduced. Freddy's just there for the most part, and Fredbear appears for barely any time at all. But I would love to see more Fredbear as a character. I think a full episode delving on his history with Springtrap and his rivalry with Freddy would have helped in that regard. I also think that we could see more of Freddy's side of the situation. We only see Springtrap's view of what happened, leaving it up to the viewer to decide if he was justified or not. Speaking of Springtrap, he has this flashback where a little girl forgives him for something that is literally never elaborated on. We don't learn why this was significant to his character or why it made him so angry. Also, I have a lot of questions as to how this universe works. I already mentioned a few of them, but I have more. The animatronics are their own sentient beings. Why do they have reset features built into them? It's implied that Foxy, Chica, and Bonnie were built by Freddy, but if that's the case, then who built Freddy? Also, it's implied that Bonnie is the tech guy, but if Freddy built them, then surely he would have some technological know-how as well. And if the animatronics are their own beings, why do they have reset buttons in the first place? The world building is very flimsy, and it just leaves a lot of plot holes. It felt like an afterthought. But where the writing lacks, the animation more than makes up for it. This is a beautiful series. All the animation was done by Tony Crynight, and it's amazing that he was able to do all of it by himself. He's a very talented animator and deserves all the props he gets for this series. I also really enjoyed the music and voice acting. Laugh and Hyena did a great job with the sound design. The voice acting was also stellar. Everybody did a great job, and the voices are what I expected from the characters. This series was made before the characters had voices in-game, so this was one of the first tastes of the characters having voices that we got. It's amazing. Even though the writing wasn't the best, at least the voice actors made up for it. They truly gave it their all. And that was Tony Crynight's FNAF animated series. There were some highs and lows, but overall an enjoyable experience. The series is only about 40 minutes in total, so if you have some time to spare, I definitely recommend giving it a watch if you're into FNAF. Just don't expect it to fit within the game's lore. With all that said, if you liked the video, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, or do all three. Thank y'all. Corn out.